The story begins with Yoon Ju-won, also called just Yoon, waking up from a bad dream of her past. After that, she gets ready like every morning and goes to the school where she works. Unfortunately, the school is being threatened with demolition by the Seok family to make way for golf courses. The Seok and Yoon families have hated each other for generations, and things got worse when the last descendants of both families were born on the same day and were both named Ji-won. Meanwhile, at the Seok company, Mr. Park is preparing to take over as CDO, but Seok Ji-won, also called just Seok, arrives from a long trip abroad and tells Mr. Park that he has evidence of his corruption, urging him to step aside. Mr. Park, ashamed, leaves. Later, Yoon Ju-won's grandfather goes to the board of directors to convince them not to sell the land to Mr. Gyeong-taek, but it's a lost cause since everyone has already been coerced, and the vote to give the land to Mr. Gyeong-taek is unanimous. Mr. Gyeong-taek wants to boast and make fun of Mr. Jae-ho, but he collapses and is taken to the hospital. That night, Mr. Gyeong-taek tells his son, Seok Ju-won, that he wants him to take charge of the school and the construction of the golf courses, but he refuses because he thinks it's all childish revenge. In the other hand, Mr. Jae-ho talks to his granddaughter, Yoon Ju-won. She wants to resign and move away, but her grandfather says he'll stay and fight. The next day, Yoon Ju-won talks to her friend Ji-hee about resigning, and she says that the old Yoon Ju-won wouldn't run away, but would fight. That night, both Ju-wons reminisce about how they used to be rivals as children and teenagers, always fighting and competing. On the one hand, Seok Ji-won attends a dinner party with former high school students, and Hongji tells him that Yoon Ju-won is a PA teacher at their old high school. The most surprising thing is that she doesn't remember Seok Ji-won at all. He can't believe she doesn't remember him, and this infuriates him. So he goes home and tells his father that he will take over the school in his name and exact revenge. On the other hand, Yoon Ju-won goes jogging on the school track, and when it starts to rain, she remembers her friend Sua's words. She is the one who chooses whether to stay and confront the Seok family or run away from them. Completely soaked, she arrives home and informs her grandfather that she won't be running away. She'll still be a teacher at the school. The next day, Yoon Ju-won wakes up from another bad dream about something that happened in her teens. To make matters worse, she has such a bad cough that she drops her contact lenses in the sink while trying to put them in. So she puts on thick framed glasses, but she accidentally is hit by basketball and her glasses break. Then she goes to wash her face and gets angry because she can barely see without them. Suddenly, she bumps into a man and greets him normally, ignoring him and continuing on. Unfortunately, that man was Seok Ju-won. He is seething with rage upon realizing that Hongji was right. Yoon Ju-won doesn't remember him. He can't believe she forgot him so easily when they'd been through so much together, like when he won the student president election and she joined the student council to annoy him. At the time, they didn't get along so well that they didn't even consider each other friends, but he couldn't stop watching her. So when a boy named Dongin asked Yoon Ju-won out on a date, he couldn't stop thinking about them until she made it clear she wouldn't go out with Dongin because he bored her. Then he told her she should focus more on her studies, and she laughed because she's number one in the class while he's sixth. To make things more interesting, the Ji-wons made a huge and unimaginable bet. If she became number one in the class again, he would call her cute until they graduated. But if he managed to become number one, she would go on a date with him. For weeks, they studied very hard, but as expected, Yoon Ju-won won. The memory is interrupted by the school officials, who come to introduce themselves to Seok Ju-won. Then, he decides to greet the others and goes to the staff room because he knows Yoon Ju-won will be there. And he's right, she's so tired that she took a nap at her desk. When she wakes up, she sees a man next to her, and it reminds her of Seok Ji-won and how she waited so long for him on their date that when he arrived, she pinched his cheek in anger. Disastrously, Yoon Ju-won does the same this time and only reacts when she hears Seok Ji-won's voice. The next day, Seok Ji-won meets with the school administrators and tells them he wants to make several changes to the school, for example, reintroducing a class for dedicated students. Then he calls a surprise staff meeting to inform them of his decisions, although it's just an excuse to see Yoon Ju-won again. On the other hand, she doesn't want to go to the staff meeting for two reasons. One is Seok, and the other is because last week, she drunkenly told Taeo that she liked him, and he said he needed time to think it over. They meet outside the staff room but don't talk much because Seok interrupts them and ushers them in. Seok begins listing all the school's shortcomings, which have led to a decline in new student enrollment. Yoon gets so angry at his talk about the school that she starts arguing fiercely with him, surprising the other teachers. Her screams amuse Seok, and he tells her he's inviting her to lunch together to make up for the pinch she gave him yesterday. Afterward, Soo talks to her friend Yoon and says she'd heard stories about Yoon Ji-won, the mad dog from school, but she never believed them because Yoon is calm. However, today she looked like a violent Chihuahua fighting a Doberman, which mortifies Yoon. Later, Yoon decides to ignore Suk's request to eat with him and goes to her house to have lunch with her grandfather, whom she hugs from behind when she sees him leaning over the refrigerator. To her surprise, it wasn't her grandfather, but Seok wearing her grandfather's clothes. It turns out he stopped by to say hello to Mr. Jae-ho, and he accidentally got him wet and lent him some of his clothes while they dried. The two men eat lunch together, but Yoon refuses to sit with them and eats standing up. On the other hand, Mr. Jae-ho's right-hand man, goes to talk to Mr. Gyeontae and tells him everything that happened with the two Ju-wons, which makes the man laugh because his son and that girl always fought when they were young. Later, Yoon and Seok return to school, and it takes them a minute to argue, so they agree to act like they don't know each other and forget what happened between them 18 years ago. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done, as they meet up with their old teacher, Mr. Duk-soo, who can't believe two of his students are teachers and one a principal. He still remembers how the two Ju-wons used to fight over everything. Although he wants to share those stories with everyone, Mr. Duk-soo is interrupted by a student who wants to talk to Yoon. It turns out that the student Yumi can't stop crying because she found out about the advanced classes and her mother surely wants her to enroll in that class. But how can she do it when her grades are terrible? Yoon takes pity on her student and tells her that not everything is decided. That night, Sung-joon meets with Mr. Jae-ho, and the old man wonders how Mr. Gyeontae managed to get the entire school board's approval to give him the school grounds. Meanwhile, the two Ju-wons can't stop thinking about the accidental hug she gave him today. A few days later, Yoon receives bad news. A young apprentice to PA teacher arrives at school. He dresses and acts like a teenager. He is Moon-soo and claims to know Yoon, but she doesn't remember him, even though Moon-soo was a professional swimmer a few years ago. On the other hand, Ji-hae keeps flirting with Seok, which angers Soo because she doesn't buy her act of being a good woman and doesn't understand how a woman like her could be friends with someone as genuine as Yoon. Then Soo decides to organize a dinner with the teachers to get closer to Seok and uses Professor Duk-soo as a go-between, who is in charge of inviting all the teachers, including Seok. Later, all the teachers go to the restaurant except Yoon, because Yumi's mother came to talk to her about the advanced class and how Yumi absolutely needs to be in it. Seok finds out about this and wastes time waiting for Yoon. When Yoon finishes her meeting, Seok acts like he just got off work, and the two go to the restaurant together. There, Moon-soo is already passed out at the table because he's a lightweight, while the others debate whether it's appropriate for two teachers to go out. When it's Yoon's turn to give her opinion, she can't stop thinking about how she proposed to Tae-oh and snaps that they should stop being matchmakers. After that, she goes outside to get some fresh air and is followed by Tae-oh, who takes her to a quiet place to reject her feelings. He says the age gap between them is too large and she deserves to date someone better than him. After that, he leaves so Yoon can dry her tears without any witnesses, but this isn't the case as Seok was smoking nearby and heard everything. Unfortunately, Seok was so focused on insulting Tae-oh that he ends up falling into a trash can and asks Yoon for help, who refuses because she thinks he was spying on her. After that, the two return to the restaurant, and an intense debate about the school's lilacs ensues. They haven't bloomed in 4 years. Fortunately for everyone, the dinner ends with Moon-soo nearly throwing up from being so drunk. The next day, preparations for Seok's inauguration ceremony begin, and his father wants it to be so grand that Mr. Jae-ho will be uncomfortable. Then Mr. Lee and Ms. Kang appoint Yoon as the main organizer for the event, but she declines because she's too busy. Meanwhile, Jae goes to talk to Seok and complains about him betting with Yoon on a date. She's afraid they'll end up dating like the last time they bet. This catches his attention, and she confesses that she always knew he and Yoon dated in high school because they're best friends, and best friends don't keep secrets. Or at least that's on Yoon's side, because Ji never told her that when Suk transferred schools, she followed him and tried to go out with him many times, even though he rejected her each time. This time, Ji isn't going to let Seok get away and confesses that she's in love with him. After that, Seok goes looking for Yoon but finds her sitting in the school garden. When she sees him coming, she makes him crouch down with her to hide from Mr. Lee and Ms. Kang, who keep talking badly about her because she doesn't want to organize Suk's ceremony, which is absurd when she's just an ordinary teacher with a poor resume. This embarrasses Yoon, so the next time she runs into Ms. Kang, she agrees to go shopping for the fruit for the ceremony. On the other hand, Seok decides to hire outsiders to organize his ceremony because he realized that Yoon, besides being a physical education teacher, also handles various school maintenance like a janitor, and he doesn't want to increase her workload. Later, Yoon and Moon-soo go shopping for fruit for the ceremony, and she decides to buy exorbitant amounts, paying with Ms. Kang's card. Afterward, she takes Moon-soo to her favorite spot in the town, a hidden lake in the forest, which is famous for demon sightings. Meanwhile, Seok drives home and sees the lake in the distance, remembering when he and Yoon used to have secret dates there. They started dating secretly during summer break and would sneak out to the lake for dates. When he arrives at the lake, he sees Yoon alone, as Moon-soo went to buy beer. Seok asks her why she comes to the lake if it's such a special place for them. 18 years ago, they started dating secretly, and even though they had to hide, they were very happy. They would go to the beach, the library, or just spend time by the lake at night. Despite being so happy, they often argued. If that happened, Seok would go to Yoon's house at night and throw 3 stones at her window to talk to her and reconcile. Since these fights sometimes lasted for days, Yoon said that if they ever broke up, they should meet at the highest point in the town during the first snowfall. And although Seok claimed they would never break up, he agreed to meet her there, and he would give her a red scarf he'd knitted as a gift. Unfortunately, their relationship was tested one afternoon when a girl approached Seok to flirt with him, and he couldn't bring himself to tell her he had a girlfriend because that would give them away. Yoon was so angry that she told him never to call her again and wandered around the town until nightfall before returning home. When she arrived home, she watched in horror as an ambulance took Suk's father away. He had suffered a heart attack while fighting with Yoon's grandfather. When Seok got into the ambulance, he lost his cell phone. Months passed and Seok never returned to school, and she never heard from him again. Rumors spread that he had moved to Seoul because his father needed medical treatment in the capital. Heartbroken, she waited until the first snowfall and went to the highest point in the town. She waited all night for him, but he never arrived. Unfortunately, Seok tried many times to contact Yoon, but she never answered his calls, and once she texted him to stop calling her. Still, on the day of the first snowfall, he traveled from Seoul to his hometown and went to her house. Then, he threw rocks at her window, but she never came out. When dawn broke, he threw the red scarf in the trash and left, saying goodbye to Yoon forever. What they don't know is that Ji was the one who came between them at that moment. She was in Yoon's room when Suk tried to contact her, and she texted him to stop calling. Then she deleted all his calls to her, and then she blocked his number. Back in the present, Yoon tells Suk that she wants to pretend nothing happened 18 years ago because the teachers and administrators are assuming she can't separate the fight between their families and her job, so she'll take care of their ceremony and go to work every day even though she hates it. After that, Seok leaves, outraged by her audacity. Next, Moon-soo arrives with the beers and she downs them in one gulp. Suddenly, she stands too close to the edge and falls into the lake. Moon-soo starts to take off his jacket to dive in after her, but Seok appears out of nowhere running and without hesitating for a second, dives into the lake after her. Fortunately, the lake isn't very deep and the two quickly surface, which is somewhat embarrassing for Seok. Then Moon-soo gives them towels to dry off, which makes Seok jealous because it's obvious he has feelings for Yoon. The next day, Seok announces to the teachers and school administrators that Yoon will be in charge of their ceremony, and Moon-soo offers to help. Because of this, Seok rejects all of Yoon's ideas and demands to be kept up to date on the preparations, so he follows Yoon and Moon-soo around the school. Elsewhere, in the school gardens, Yumi asks her friend Haesoo how the first advanced students class went. but Haesoo refuses to tell her about it, which angers Yumi, and she leaves her friend alone. At that moment, Kiseok, a classmate of theirs, hits Haesoo with his basketball. This angers her so much that she hits him back with the ball. Moonsoo, Seok, and Yoon see this, and she sides with Haesoo and scolds Kiseok, but Seok sides with Kiseok and tells him that he can go after Haesoo and demand an apology. Afterward, Moonsoo, Seok, and Yoon go to the school gymnasium where the ceremony will be held, and Seok asks Moonsoo to find a ladder to check a leak. Then Moonsoo runs to get it with Sua's help, and they quickly run back because they don't want to miss the two of them fighting. Sua sits down to wait for the magic of the soap opera to happen. According to her, when one protagonist climbs a ladder, it always falls on the other protagonist, and they have a magical moment, staring into each other's eyes. Yoon quickly bursts Sua's bubble by saying that real life isn't a soap opera. If one person falls on another, they'll both get hurt. Suddenly, like in a soap opera, Seok stumbles on the stairs, and Yoon runs to steady it, but that's not enough, and Seok falls. Not wanting her to get hurt, he manages to turn around, and when he falls, Yoon lands on top of him. At that moment, Sua applauds because, like in a soap opera, Yoon and Seok stare into each other's eyes. After that, Yoon invites Moonsoo to her house for dinner, and he offers to cook for her and her grandfather, surprising them with his cooking skills. Later, Yoon accompanies him to the bus station, and before leaving, he tells her that if something is hard but you like it, then it's because you really like it. Suddenly, Yoon has a déjà vu and finally remembers how she met Moonsoo. It turns out that a few years ago, Yoon was hospitalized due to severe depression. She had gotten a job at a company, but when she found out that a coworker had been harassed, she stood up for her and joined her in suing the CEO. However, days later, the coworker backed out, and the CEO ended up suing Yoon for slander. As if that weren't enough, her parents died in an accident around that time, and she learned that her father was corrupt and had embezzled money. All of this caused Yoon's stress and depression to cause her eyes to become dull and her hair to turn gray. Her sadness was so great that she climbed to the hospital rooftop and would have jumped off if it weren't for Moonsoo, who was also about to jump. He was also hospitalized because his Olympic swimming career ended abruptly after an injury, and for him, nothing else existed in life but the pool. So they decided to jump together after chatting and drinking a beer, but Moonsoo got drunk after one sip, and instead of jumping, they both fell backward. Back to the present, they say they don't remember how they survived. At that moment, Yoon's grandfather arrives at the bus stop because he was worried about his granddaughter. They say the last bus has left, so Mr. Jaeho invites Moonsoo to sleep at his house, as this is the residence for teachers who live far away. The next day, Seok's father goes to Mr. Jaeho's residence to talk to him. He wants Mr. Jaeho to attend Seok's ceremony. He wants him humiliated and defeated. If Mr. Jaeho attends, Mr. Jaehoontae says he'll consider not demolishing the school to build golf courses. Then Mr. Jaeho agrees. On the other hand, Seok finds out that his father went to visit Mr. Jaeho and quickly heads there. But when he arrives, he finds out that Moonsoo spent the night there. After that, he and his father return home, and Seok tells his father that he agrees to him participating in the ceremony, which surprises his mother. During the weekend, Seok can't stop thinking about Moonsoo sleeping under the same roof as Yoon and can't help but feel jealous. Days later, Yoon finishes organizing Seok's ceremony, unaware that he has other plans. On the day of the ceremony, Seok brings a team of workers who move all the chairs and atriums to the schoolyard. He wants the ceremony to be held outdoors. On the other hand, he sends all the elderly people who were supposed to attend the ceremony to a flower display instead of the ceremony. When Seok's father arrives, he is surprised to see reporters and poses with his son for the cameras. Then, the students in charge of singing the school anthem sing a rock version, as that's Seok's favorite genre of music. Finally, Seok gives a very long speech, which lasts for hours, while the students listen, tired, standing in the sunlight. When it seems that everything is finally about to end, Seok gives the floor to his father, who prepared a humiliating speech for Mr. Jaeho, but the students start complaining about how much longer they have to stand. It's been hours since the ceremony began, so Mr. Jaehoontae gives up and ends the ceremony. That night, all the teachers and the school board go out to drink and celebrate in Seok's honor. and Mr. G and Mr. Kang comment on how clever Seok was. He called reporters so his appointment as school principal would be official and his father wouldn't be able to remove him from the position just because. Later, Moon-soo carries Seok home because he passed out drunk, but he still listens as Yoon tells Moon-soo he can move into the school residence because it has enough rooms for many teachers. The next day, Moon-soo arrives at the residence with Seok, who isn't going to allow Moon-soo and Yoon to share the same roof. And he can't help but remember the last time he saw Yoon. A few years ago, he learned of her parents' death and went to the hospital. He watched over her from outside every day until one night when he couldn't find her. Miraculously, he saw her sitting on the edge of the roof with a teenager, so he ran up and saved them from falling. Back in the present, Seok competes against Moon-soo to see who gets the best room, and incredibly, Moon-soo wins. Meanwhile, Yoon asks her grandfather why he agreed to let Seok live with them, and the old man says it's better to keep the enemy close. After settling in, Moon-soo tries to prove how well he'd fit into the Yoon family and quickly integrates, making Seok jealous. Then, Seok interferes and wins rock, paper, scissors to go grocery shopping with Yoon. There, they argue as usual, but it also reveals how much they know each other. For example, he knows what kind of sweets she buys and how she likes to eat them. When they get home, Moon-soo treats them to a banquet for dinner since he's an expert cook. Not to be outdone, Seok decides to be the man of the house and starts fixing doors, pipes, leaks, etc. The next day, Moon-soo shows off how good he is at housework and laundry, while Seok demonstrates how good he is at gardening. At night, Yoon puts ointment on Moon-soo's calloused hands, while Seok puts on band-aids himself. Since it doesn't reach his back, he gives Yoon a painkiller patch to put on him, but Moon-soo intervenes and doesn't let Yoon touch Seok's skin. On Monday, Yoon tells Sua and Jetty about what's happening in her life. Jai can't hide her annoyance, while Sue laughs at the situation and jokes that she wants to move in with them to see everything from the front row. Later, Jai watches from afar as Yoon and Seok fight at school because they both have each other's tablets. This brings back memories of how they used to fight in middle school, which is very bad for her plans. Meanwhile, Mr. Jaeho asks Mr. G, his right-hand man, to gather the area's oldest residents to organize a protest against the construction of the golf courses. That night, Seok tries to prove that he also knows how to cook, but this isn't true and ends up adding sugar to the stew, making it inedible. Then, Moon-soo suggests ordering hamburgers, and Yoon and her grandfather join him, while Seok decides to eat the sweet stew to prove it wasn't so bad. The next day, Mr. Jaeho goes to the hall where the protest against the golf course's construction was to be held and is saddened to see few people. Mr. G explains that it's because most of them support the construction. Furthermore, most of the residents are at a restaurant eating and drinking, courtesy of Mr. Gyeongtae, who convinces them that building golf courses is best for the town's economy. At that moment, Mr. Jaeho arrives and starts arguing with Mr. Gyeongtae about old family grudges. Suddenly, Yoon arrives and tries to stop them, but Mr. Gyeongtae starts mocking her for being a mere teacher, which infuriates Mr. Jaeho so much that he punches Mr. Gyeongtae. Fortunately, Seok arrives and breaks up the fight. Later, everyone returns to the residence, and Seok and Yoon go to the lake to talk. She is very angry with him and accuses him of planning the confrontation between her grandfather and his father, but he says it was all a coincidence. She is so angry that she tells him she doesn't want him to talk to her anymore. At night, Seok goes to sleep thinking about how Yoon once again asks him not to talk to her. That night it was so cold that it made him dream about the night he waited outside her window for hours. The next day, he wakes up with a cough due to the cold, and Yoon announces that she won't eat breakfast in Seok's presence. After that, they go to school, and Yoon tells Jiki how the fight between her and Seok's family is escalating. This puts her in such a good mood that she tells her she'll go to her house tonight with some beer to have a good time. That night, Jai drinks so much that she tries to play matchmaker, trying to get Moon-soo to confess his feelings to Yoon. But the former swimmer decides to take a sip of beer to avoid answering and immediately passes out. Seok sees all of this, and he can't help but feel jealous at the thought that someone else might be in love with Yoon. Then he carries Moon-soo to his room and throws him like a sack of potatoes on the bed. Later, Seok wakes up with a dry throat and goes to the kitchen in search of water. He notices a ladder leading to the attic, which makes him so curious that he doesn't hesitate to go up. In the attic, he finds a box with a photo sticking out of it. It's a photo of him and Yoon when they were dating, and there are more inside, so he grabs it and goes down. Unfortunately, Jai was looking for her bag to go home and freaked out when she saw Suk's dangling foot, thinking the worst. Then he rushes downstairs and is seen by Yoon, who screams in horror because he has her box of precious memories in his hands. She jumps to take them from him and ends up pulling down his pants. Unfortunately for Seok, all the commotion woke up Moon-soo and Mr. Jae-ho, who also saw him without pants. The next day, Jai can't stop worrying about the cell phone she saw in Yoon's box, the one she used in middle school, and is afraid she'll find out what really happened. On the other hand, Seok is so mortified by what happened last night that he skips breakfast with them. But hours later, he gathers his courage and asks Yoon why she kept a photo of them together. To prove she doesn't have feelings for him, she makes a ball of it. Later, Seok's father stops by the school to scold his son for not defending him in the fight and for not visiting him. He is so angry that he threatens to demolish the residence where Mr. Jae-ho and his granddaughter live. That night, Mr. Jae-ho tells his granddaughter that he is worried about Seok. He noticed he is feverish and coughing, and he makes her realize that he doesn't have anyone to take care of him. So Yoon goes to his room and takes care of him, who has a high fever. Unaware that he's dreaming over and over again about the time he waited outside her window all night, but this time he dreams that she came down to talk to him and then left again. When he wakes up, Seok thinks he's dreaming and kisses her like he would have liked to do night. Meanwhile, Yoon's grandfather tries to enter the room to give Seok an electric blanket, but fortunately, Yoon manages to break away from the kiss and lock the door. The next day, Yoon is very nervous, but her nervousness turns into anger when she realizes Seok doesn't remember the kiss, so she decides to ignore him. Afterward, the three of them go to school, and Yoon talks to her friend Sua, asking hypothetically if someone can forget something if they have a fever. She says yes, it's like being drunk, but she's sure that something about what happened still remains in the mind of the person who forgets it. Later, Yoon introduces a new transfer student, Jong Yul, who seems taciturn and very quiet. Later, the students go to the cafeteria for lunch, and Haesoo eats alone because her friend Yumi is still mad at her for not telling her about her advanced classes. So, Kiseok sits down with her and advises her to think before she speaks. She's very kind but very blunt. Meanwhile, Seok meets with Mr. Jae-ho and apologizes to him for how mean his father is to him. He can't help but feel bad because his father wants to demolish the dorm if Jae-ho doesn't apologize soon. Later, Yoon and Moon-soo stroll through the school grounds and run into Seok, who challenges Yoon to sit next to him. Since she can't let him win, she sits with him but puts Moon-soo between them. Even so, Seok manages to grab her face so she can look at him, and she can't tear her eyes away from his lips, remembering last night's kiss. That night, Yoon takes out her old cell phone and looks through old photos of her and Seok's happy times. The next day, Seok receives a call from his mother reminding him that today is her birthday and that he promised to give her a designer bag, so he quickly sends his assistant to buy one. He then sits at his desk, raptly watching Yoon work, but is interrupted by Jai, who tells him that she doesn't really like him and just wants to be his friend. Seok chooses not to answer, and she leaves angrily because nothing is going as planned lately. In the other hand, Sua visits Taeo at the school infirmary, and as usual, she flirts with him like she does with everyone else, but he stops her, telling her he doesn't like her jokes and asks her to stop, shocking her. Meanwhile, Haesoo studies so hard in class that her nose starts bleeding and she faints. Fortunately, Yumi is there and tries to take her to the infirmary on her own, but Kiseok runs to them and carries her on his back to help her. Fortunately, she wakes up quickly, calming Yumi's tears, who hasn't stopped crying since she fainted. Meanwhile, Yoon and Jae are chosen to go to teacher training in Seoul. They were supposed to go together, but Jae asks Seok to give her a ride to Seoul because she knew he was going to visit his mother. However, her plan to spend time alone with him didn't work out because Seok saw Yoon and Moon-soo waiting at the bus stop and offered them a ride too. On the way to Seoul, Seok notices that Yoon has a cold and worries about her, making Jae jealous. After dropping them off at training, Seok goes to his parents' house to celebrate his mother's birthday, and his father tells him that Mr. Jaeho came to his office to apologize for hitting him. According to him, the man almost knelt in front of him. But what really happened was that Mr. Jaeho apologized and asked him not to insult his granddaughter again. Before leaving, he asked him why he was so interested in getting revenge on him. When he didn't know how to answer, Mr. Jaeho patted him. Hours later, Moon-soo, Yoon, and Ji go to get something to eat while they wait for Seok to pick them up, which makes Ji-hee jealous because Seok promised to call Yoon. When Yoon goes to the bathroom, she takes the opportunity to hang up on all of 6 calls and then puts her phone in her bag. When Yoon returns, Jai makes up an excuse saying she has to visit a friend, and Yoon doesn't notice that she took her phone. Without her, Moon-soo and Yoon go to eat somewhere else, and he takes the opportunity to confess his feelings to her. He fell in love with her when they met on the hospital rooftop, but she rejects him because she never saw him that way. Meanwhile, Seok checks the places near where he left Yoon, Jai, and Moon-soo but can't find them. Later, Yoon takes the bus home and realizes she doesn't have her phone. When she arrives in town, she goes to the running track instead of home because jogging relaxes her. Unfortunately, she trips and falls, but is helped by Seok, who realized she would be there. They argue as usual, and she asks him why he decided to go out with her. He says he wants to go out with her and then break up with her ruthlessly. Yoon doesn't understand why he would want that, and when he's about to answer, they stop in shock when they see the lilac tree in bloom. Seeing the blooming lilac flowers, Seok remembers the kiss he gave Yoon, but she screams, betrayed by the tree. Then Seok announces that they're dating starting today, but she refuses to acknowledge the validity of the bet. The next day, the teachers and students stare in amazement at the blooming lilac tree and wonder if Yoon and Seok are dating, so she has to announce to everyone that it's not true. Still, her coworkers don't believe her and she tells them that she will not date with someone for a simple bet, and Jae sarcastically says she's heard that before. During the day, Yoon rejects Seok again, and his assistant tells him that the best way to win Yoon over is to pretend he's not interested in her, but when she sees him, he should pretend she hurt him. That night, Seok decides not to eat with Yoon, her grandfather, and Moon-soo, which piques her curiosity. She thinks he's still sick, so she makes him some oatmeal. When she enters his room, she sees him secretly eating noodles and realizes it was all a ruse, so she knocks over the bowl of oatmeal, which lands on Seok's foot. Next, they go to the bathroom to soak his burned foot, and he suggests to date for just 2 weeks in secret, since that's the lifespan of a lilac blossom, and Yoon accepts. The next day, the teachers plan an outing, but Soo declines because she has to take her mother to the doctor. Ji doesn't feel like going out with them, and Yoon says she has something to do. What they don't know is that she and Seok will be having their first date in 18 years tonight. Later, Seok is so nervous he doesn't know which tie to wear, and his assistant says he should dress casually, while Yoon is in the same predicament but decides to wear her usual gym clothes. Before leaving for her date, she goes through the photos on her old phone and decides to transfer all the data from it to her computer, but this process takes so long that she leaves it to do its work. When she meets Seok in the parking lot, he asks her where she wants to go since, according to his assistant, it's frowned upon these days for a man to decide everything, but this advice earns him ridicule from Yoon because she says he didn't plan anything. So he takes her to a restaurant, but he does not have a reservation. Elsewhere, Soo drops her mother off at the doctor's and meets up with Tae-oh. They go for drinks afterward, and she tells him how bad her relationship with her mother is. Then he tells her that her feelings are valid, which surprises her. Usually, people tell her that she should obey her mother forever. Later, the teachers, Duk-soo and Jae-ju, run into Jivi, leaving the convenience store, and convince her to go have dinner with them. Then they meet up with Soo and Tae-oh and do the same. Then, they go to the same restaurant where Seok and Yoon are, and they see them in the elevator. But the most surprising thing is that Yoon and Seok are hugging each other, unaware that they were fighting minutes before. Later, everyone goes to eat, and Seok says that what they saw isn't what they think, but that he forced Yoon to go out with him, and that's why he hugged her, which earns disapproving looks from everyone. After that, Seok and Yoon go to their lake and talk about how it's unfair that he lets others think badly of him, but he says he only cares about what she thinks of him. A little drunk, He asks her if she missed him, and she says yes, she missed him one time. She wanted to hit him so badly for hurting her. Then he carries her on his back to the dorm, remembering how he carried her like that from the hospital rooftop to her room. The next day, Moon-soo acts cold toward Yoon because he knows she has feelings for Seok and can't help but feel hurt. Meanwhile, the semester's grades are revealed, and Hae-soo drops to second place because the new student is smarter than her. Hae-soo feels so bad about this that she runs to the infirmary to be comforted by Tae-oh and Sua. Ki-seok follows her and angrily enters the school infirmary and drags her out because he thinks she has feelings for the nurse when himself is in love with her, and she hits him for thinking that about her. All of this is seen by Yul. Meanwhile, Mr. Che takes his daughter to a meeting with Mr. Jeongtae. He wants his daughter to get married once and for all, and he finds out that Mr. Jeongtae has a single son. When they arrive at the restaurant where Mr. Jeongtae is waiting for them, he is a little upset because he previously met Mr. Jae-ho, who boastfully told him that he was going on the radio to talk about how Mr. Jeongtae will destroy the environment by building golf courses in the town. After his anger has subsided, Mr. Jeongtae asks Jae about his son, and she tells him everything, the bet between Yoon and Seok, and how they went on a date even though their families are enemies. This infuriates Mr. Jeongtae so much that he goes to the school residence and vents his anger at how he's being mocked by Yoon and Mr. Jae-ho and leaves, saying that his son could never date a poor woman like Yoon. Afterward, Seok goes to school to get some papers and sees Ji-hee leaving Yoon's phone on her desk. When he confronts her, she cries, saying that it's not her fault she hurt Yoon. She likes him so much that she feels compelled to hurt her, so it's all Seok's fault. The next day, Yoon sees that the lilac blossoms are wilting. Jae asks her what's wrong, and she decides to be honest. She's sad because after so many years, she's still in love with Seok. That night, Yoon checks the data she downloaded from her old phone and is shocked by the number of deleted messages Seok sent her 18 years ago. She can't understand how she never saw them. In that messages, Seok asked to talk to her or wrote how much he missed her. Devastated, she runs to the lilac tree, and incredibly, Seok arrives too. He ran there because he previously read a letter Yoon wrote for him 18 years ago, saying how much she missed him. Then Seok tells Yoon it's time to stop playing games. He wants to go out with her for real this time. The next day, Seok moves out of the dorm into a nearby apartment, and Yoon doesn't say goodbye. Later, she goes for a run, but in reality, she goes to Seok's apartment. They've decided to give each other another chance, and the first thing they do as a couple is go shopping for things and furniture for Seok's new apartment, and he lets her choose what she likes. The next day, Yoon is so happy that Sua notices it, and she thinks her friend is hiding something from her. On the other hand, Seok doesn't want to spend a single minute without his girlfriend, so he asks her to have lunch together, but she tells him she has other plans. It turns out Moon-soo hasn't lost hope for her, and she agrees to go to lunch with him, but it's to make it clear that she's interested in someone else. After that, they return to school but are seen by Professor Duk-soo, who assumes they're secretly dating and tells his friend Jae-gyu, but it doesn't stay between the two of them. Within minutes, all the students, teachers, and staff find out about the new gossip. Yoon and Moon-soo are secretly dating. That night, Seok goes to talk to his father and ends up arguing with him because the man doesn't accept that Seok can date whoever he wants and that he won't hesitate to leave him forever if he continues to interfere in his private life. After that, he returns to his apartment and is happy to see Yoon waiting for him on the couch. He thinks she's asleep, so he lovingly rests his head on her shoulder, but she surprises him by opening her eyes and teases him. Then he tries to kiss her, and she laughs because they're acting like it's their first kiss when it isn't. He quickly gets offended, so Yoon goes back to teasing him like before. The next day, Yoon admires Moon-soo's new gym suit and compliments him on his good taste since it's the same as hers. He says he bought it on sale, but when he tries to zip it up, it gets stuck, and she helps him, causing a commotion among the students who were spying on them. In South Korea, when a man and a woman wear matching clothes, it's because they're dating. With their identical gym suits, it's as if Yoon and Moon-soo are admitting they're dating, which causes excitement among the students and jealousy in Seok. Afterward, she goes to talk to him and says she doesn't know how the rumor started and promises to be more careful. That night, Sua bumps into Tae-oh at an herbalist's shop. She's buying medicinal tea for her mother, and he's buying tea to help stressed teenagers sleep. They seem to run into each other quite often, and she jokes that they're destined, but he asks her not to joke about it. At that moment, an old acquaintance of Teo shows up and asks to reconnect with him, completely ignoring Sua. That night, Seok goes to the school residence under the guise of looking for the clothes he left behind and is invited to dinner with them. At dinner, he learns that tomorrow all the teachers will be taking a bus to a bonding convention, and Yoon complains about the constant karaoke, while Moon-soo promises to prepare a good song. The next day, all the teachers are surprised when a fleet of cars arrives for them instead of the usual old school bus. Not only that, Seok announces they're going to one of his family's luxurious resorts. Unfortunately, he tries to get Yoon to go in his car, but ends up going with Professor Duk-soo instead. Later at dinner, Ms. Kang suggests Moon-soo and Yoon sing a romantic song as a duet, and that's enough for Seok to interrupt and go up to sing instead of Yoon, causing everyone to laugh. Meanwhile, Mr. Jaeontae secretly meets with Mr. Jae, Mr. Jaeho's right-hand man, and congratulates him for always anticipating everything Jaeho does so he can counter his efforts to obstruct the construction of the golf courses. Unfortunately, he learns that his son attended the convention with all the teachers and suspects something is going on. Back at the teachers' convention, Jae can't take it anymore and goes for a walk to the beach. She almost trips if it weren't for Seok, who takes her to a bench. She asks him if he's told Yoon about her stealing her cell phone, and he says he wants her to tell Yoon. Regretting what she did, she wants to tell him that 18 years ago, she deleted his messages and calls from Yoon's cell phone, but he insists that she should tell Yoon first because they are friends. This makes Jae feel worse. She says she loves Yoon and knows she's a better person than her, and before leaving, he leaves her his shoes because the tide swept hers away. Elsewhere, Yoon waits for Seok but is caught by Ms. Kang. Fortunately, Moon-soo appears and pretends they're together, leaving them alone. After that, Yoon returns to her room and waits for Sua, who went to Taeyo's room to confess her feelings, but he flatly rejects her. Later, Yoon hears pebbles against her window and happily opens it. She comes down right away and he takes her to his room and are seen by Jae. In his room, he prepares champagne to toast with an ocean view, but first, he kisses her repeatedly, happy to be with her again. In the other hand, Mr. Jaeontae arrives at the resort and runs into Jae, who tells him she'll take him to Suk's room. In reality, she takes him to the room of teachers Duk-soo and Jaegyu, who were already drunk. While Suk's father glares at the teachers, Jae runs to Suk's room and warns him that his father is here, so he goes out and takes his father to his car, reassuring him that nothing strange is happening, just a school principal spending time with the teachers. The next day, Suk's assistant gets all the teachers to take other cars so Seok and Yoon can drive home alone, and Seok takes the opportunity to take her to a heavenly place where no one will recognize them. There, they eat ice cream and hold hands because they know no one will see them, but they are mistaken because at that moment, the teachers them. What happened was that Duk-soo was so hungover that he almost threw up in the car, so Mr. Lee stopped the car for them to get some fresh air and ice cream, unaware that his boss and Yoon would be there too. When Duk-soo and the others see the happy couple, they feel like they've struck gold because now everything makes sense. It was obvious that the two Jiwons would date at some point. On Monday at school, Yoon is questioned by Sua and Anyu, and they believe Yoon and Seok are the perfect couple. In the other hand, Seok is questioned by Duk-soo and Jaegyu, and Mr. Lee says that Yoon and Seok are dating thanks to him. He gave Seok a lot of advice, which makes Duk-soo laugh because he realized the two Jiwons had a thing for 18 years. After that, Jae talks to Yoon, who thanks her for being her friend before and for being her friend now, and Yoon thanks her for helping them with Suk's father. Then she goes to sit under the lilac tree, and Seok sits down too, resting his head on her shoulder. This lasts only for seconds because Yuma runs in to tell Yoon that Haesoo and Yul are fighting. It turns out that Yul was admitted to the advanced classes, but she only sleeps during class and lets her cell phone ring non-stop, which annoys everyone, but especially Haesoo. And when Haesoo confronted Yul about sleeping during class, Yul mocked her for falling to second place, saying that Haesoo doesn't study but wastes time on dates. This angered Haesoo so much that she pushed Yul, which ended in a fight, and the two were taken to the infirmary. Then Yoon arrives and makes the two apologize, but only Haesoo does. Later, Seok meets Professor Duksu, who asks him where he lives so he can visit him one day. Seok tells him where it is, which he finds odd since Mr. G also lives in that apartment complex. That night, Duksu convinces his friend Jaegyu to pay Seok a surprise visit and throw a welcome party, so the two bring lots of drinks and snacks. Unfortunately, minutes after they arrive, Yoon arrives as well. While they're drinking uncontrollably, Duksu says he wants to officiate their wedding, which shocks both Juwons. Duksu says they're clearly serious about each other and not just playing around, so he reiterates that he'll officiate their wedding. After all, he's known them since they were teenagers. Later, Jaegyu carries Duksu on his back, who's already drunk and asleep. Yoon is also tired, but Seok wants her to sleep for a while on the couch and then go home, and she agrees. However, the short nap lasts all night, and they wake up with the first rays of sunlight. Then Yoon runs home, but her grandfather sees her at the door and thinks she's already leaving, so she has no choice but to go to school in the same clothes. There, she and Seok pretend they didn't spend the night together, but Soo notices it because they both look haggard but happy. Later, Seok sees how hard Yoon is working and decides to buy hundreds of sandwiches for the students so she can rest. Then he is caught by Duksu and the other teachers, who are delighted with his relationship with Yoon and suggest they rent buses for the wedding so everyone can attend. He clarifies that they aren't thinking about getting married yet. Fortunately, Yoon arrives and saves Seok from them. Meanwhile, the students gossip about something an anonymous person posted, a photo of Hasu in Nurse Taeyo's car. She finds out and confronts Yul because she knows it was her. At that moment, Vice Principal Kang takes Hasu to the infirmary so they can tell her the truth. Hasu can't take it anymore and bursts into tears, hiding behind Taeo. Suddenly, Sua enters the infirmary and asks Vice Principal Kang to let them explain before accusing them of something so serious. Then, Taeo confesses that he is Hasu's father and that he only found out recently, which is why he cares so much for her. This news shocks Sua so much that she leaves the infirmary in silence. Meanwhile, Seok's father arrives at the school to give the order to close one of the school's main entrances to begin construction of the golf courses. From now on, this exit to the highway will belong to future golfers. This angers Mr. Jaeho so much that he tries to attack Mr. Gyeongtae, but is stopped by Seok and Mr. G, who agrees with Mr. Gyeongtae and leaves with him. Later, Mr. G returns to Mr. Jaeho and tells him that he went with Mr. Gyeongtae because he had to tell him that Seok and Yoon are dating. That night, Seok goes to his parents' house and tells them he's dating Yoon, which angers his father so much that he says he'll disown him right now, but Seok doesn't care. Before leaving home, his mother talks to him and tells him that she will always support him even if he marries Yoon, and that gives him the push he needed to buy an engagement ring. Then, he texts Yoon, telling her he'll wait for her where they started dating 18 years ago, a park near the school. Yoon reads the message and runs toward him, but runs into Mr. Jung, her former boss, whom she accused of harassment on behalf of her coworker many years ago. Yoon is shocked for a few seconds, but then runs away and lies to Seok that she has a headache and is going home. As she runs, she remembers how she accused Mr. Jung of harassing a coworker, but she was the one who ended up fired and sued by him. The next day, Moon-soo realizes she's not feeling well. Then, Vice President Kang tells Yoon that Yul's father wants to contact her, and that man is none other than Mr. Jung. Later, Moon-soo tells Yoon that he saw her running away from a man last night and realized it was her former boss, since she told him about him on the hospital rooftop. Moon-soo then tells her that she doesn't have to face him alone or pretend, he will support her. Seok overhears this, also worried about her and wanting to know what's wrong. Later, Seok talks to his assistant and tells him he's been noticing some inconsistencies in the school's accounting books and asks him to look into it. Furthermore, Mr. Lee scolds him for being unromantic with Yoon, and he says he'll reserve a super romantic spot for him to propose to her, not just on a swing set in the park. Then Mr. Lee calls the school's treasury department and asks them to investigate some of the school's monetary transactions, which Mr. G overhears. Later, Jai finds the essay Yoon wrote for her college entrance exams, and Ji reminds her friend how brave and feisty she was. This makes Yoon sad, so she runs away to the rooftop to clear her head. On the other hand, Seok runs into Mr. Jung and recognizes him instantly. He knows he's Yoon's former boss because he saw him disrespect her at her parents' funeral, which is why he chased him and beat him up a few years ago. Seok angrily watches as Mr. Jeon tries to call Yoon. He takes his phone and hangs up, saying he's the school principal, and if he wants to talk to a teacher, he should talk to him first. At the principal's office, Mr. Jung throws a tantrum because he only wants to talk to Yoon, but Seok puts him in his place, saying that a principal and vice principal are the best people to solve Yul and Hesu's problem. After that, Seok calls Yoon, and she tells him she's on the rooftop. This causes him to become extremely scared. He desperately runs up to the rooftop and hugs her, relieved. Then she tells him she just wanted to spend time alone where they used to hide. Then he tells her that he saw her that time on the hospital rooftop and saved her, which brings tears to Yoon's eyes. She missed him so much back then and wishes she knew he was looking out for her the whole time. Seok knows she's right and hugs her, comforting her. Then Mr. Lee tells Suk that he's already arranged a romantic evening for him and Yoon, but the plan is interrupted by Mr. Jae-ho, who gets in the car first. When they arrive home, Yoon and her grandfather get in first, while Seok locks the car and accidentally opens the trunk and balloons pop out of it. He watches uneasily as Mr. Lee prepared hundreds of flowers for him to propose to Yoon. Meanwhile, Suk's father can't believe his son would challenge him like that, and his wife scolds him for being so angry when his heart is so weak. Then, he calls his workers to empty his son's apartment. Meanwhile, at Mr. Jae-ho's house, he tells them that he already knows about them, and Seok asks for his blessing and assures him that he loves his granddaughter. The old man has no choice but to accept their relationship, but forbids them from being alone at home. If they don't comply, he won't accept them as a couple. Then, Mr. Jae-ho tells Suk that he can sleep at the residence, but he'll sleep with him. Later, Mr. Jae-ho and Seok discuss how precious Yoon is to them both, and the old man asks him to take care of her or else unleash his fury on Seok and his family. Meanwhile, Mr. G meets with a counselor to discuss the construction of the golf courses. The counselor knows that Mr. G bought a lot of land surrounding the school and has given his approval for the construction of the golf courses. However, he doesn't want Mr. Jae-ho to find out yet and asks the counselor to keep quiet. When he gets home, Mr. Jae calls Suk's father and tells him that Seok is responsible for the student's parents' opposition to the construction of the golf courses and advises him to send him to work abroad, as he did a few years ago. The next day, Yoon accidentally overhears Mr. Jung arguing with her daughter Yul and realizes the man only came to bother her. He doesn't care about her daughter at all. Then she meets with him. She's very nervous but knows she has Suk's support. She tries to be professional and doesn't show an ounce of fear, which annoys Mr. Jung, who only exists to take advantage of the weak. Then he tries to hit Yoon, and Seok intervenes, punching him in the face and telling him that if he bothers her again, he'll show the security footage to the police. On the way out, Mr. Jung is tripped by Duk-soo, and then Jae-gyu pretends to help him, but he only wanted to step on his fingers. Elsewhere, Hae-soo sees her father talking to Sua about her and how they want to give each other a chance. This is seen by Yul, who came to tell her that her father wants to stir up trouble over their fight, but she doesn't agree with him. Hae-soo tells her that she's also having problems with her father and points to Nurse Taeo, which shocks Yul. Later, Hae-soo's classmates continue gossiping about Hae-soo's relationship with the school nurse. As always, Yumi and Kiseok defend her, but this time, Yul joins them, saying that the photo of them isn't what it seems. Later, Seok is determined to propose to Yoon today, but realizes that he dropped the ring in Mr. Jae-ho's room. So he takes her to the residence and goes upstairs to look for it. At that moment, Mr. Jae-ho appears and Seok hides in the attic. When the old man leaves, Yoon goes up to the attic and Seok says he planned to take her somewhere romantic, and she knows what he's about to ask her because she saw the ring that morning. So before he takes out the engagement ring, she tells him she accepts to marry him and will make him very happy. Overjoyed, Seok puts the ring on her and promises to make her happy. The next day, Mr. Lee buys Seok new clothes and takes them to school since he doesn't have a place to sleep because of his father. Even so, his happiness isn't dampened because Yoon agreed to marry him, although he later scolds Yoon for not wearing her ring. So she returns home to look for it and decides to tell her grandfather about it first. He congratulates her and asks her not to let anyone put her down. He will always support her. Meanwhile, Suk's parents are at school. His mom just wants to see her son and Yoon, while his dad brings him a list of suitable young women to marry. At that moment, Yoon enters Suk's office to show him that she has already put on her engagement ring, unaware that he was with his parents. Then the four sit down to talk, and Mr. Jae announces that he completely opposes their marriage and gives the list of acceptable women to Sik. However, it's Yoon who takes it and starts flipping through the pages. She says they're all very pretty, but she thinks she's prettier than the others, and Siak agrees with her. When Suk's parents leave, Yoon feels mortified for bragging about her beauty, but he tells her it was okay. In the other hand, Suk's father complains that Yoon didn't react the way he expected to his insults and congratulates his wife for inviting them to dinner. It'll be easier to attack Yoon than Siak. His wife rolls her eyes, not believing her husband understands the situation. Later, Yoon goes to the staff room, and Suha notices she's wearing an engagement ring, which makes teacher Duksu cry because he's known them since the two Jiwons were teenagers. Outside the staff room, Jae tells Moonsu that they've been apart for a long time, but their love has overcome the barrier of time, and that means they were destined for each other. There was never room for anyone else. Then she goes in and genuinely congratulates Yoon. Later, Moonsu returns to the residence and finds Yoon's grandfather looking through a family album. The old man tells Moonsu that what he's feeling will soon pass when he realizes the girl he loves is happy. The same thing happened to him when he fell in love with Suja, Suk's grandmother, but he gave up because he knew she loved someone else. Meanwhile, Siak and Yoon go to his parents' house and, as expected, Mr. Jae is very rude to Yoon, but she takes it well and tells him that he wasn't always like that. She tells him that once, when she was a little girl, her umbrella blew away in the wind and she scraped her knee. So Mr. Jae took her undercover, put a band-aid on her knee, and took care of her until the rain stopped. This makes Siak and his mother smile, while Mr. Jae is embarrassed because he was once kind to his enemy's granddaughter. Later, Mr. Jae tries to get his son to stay over, but he doesn't want to, so Yoon intervenes and convinces him, which surprises his parents. Their son has always been rebellious, but in Yoon's hands, he's as soft as a piece of dough. The next day, Mr. G passes by Suk's office and sees Mr. Lee hiding some papers. He takes them to Siak, who shows them to his accountant, who says that Mr. G has been embezzling school funds for years and has stolen a lot of money. Seeing himself trapped, Mr. G goes to talk to Suk's father and tells him everything he did, begging for mercy. He stole the money because his wife and daughter live abroad, and he needed the money. Mr. Gyeongtae then decides to forgive him on the condition that he remains on his side and not Jaeho's. Later, Siak goes to talk to his father and asks him to expose Mr. G, but he refuses to do so. On the other hand, Mr. Jaeho goes to talk to a real estate agent and asks him to sell a piece of land he has since his granddaughter will soon get married, and the agent tells him that it is best to wait, but if he needs money, he can ask Mr. G. He has a lot of land in his name, which shocks Mr. Jaeho so much that it leaves him in a catatonic state. Meanwhile, Suk's father waits for Mr. Jaeho at a bar, but he doesn't arrive. Half an hour later, he sees him walking aimlessly past the window, but when he approaches, Mr. Jaeho doesn't recognize him and faints. Later, Mr. Jaeho wakes up and this time recognizes Mr. Gyeongtae. The first thing he does is ask him if he gave Mr. G land, and he assures him that he didn't. That night, Moonsu arrives at the residence and is worried that Mr. Jaeho can't get into his own house because he can't remember the lock password. Then he tells him that his grandmother started having similar episodes before she was diagnosed with dementia and downloads a tracking app on his phone just in case. Before going to sleep, Mr. Jaeho gives all his bank passwords and important papers to Yoon, and she suspects something is wrong, but he says that everything is okay and advises her to get married soon because he'd like to walk her down the aisle. The next day, Siak meets with his father to talk about Mr. Jae. It seems he's been embezzling much more money than they thought from the school and using it to buy a lot of land because he knew about Mr. Gyeongtae's plan to build golf courses. Meanwhile, Yoon asks Moonsu why he's looking at his phone so much, and he doesn't want to tell her he's tracking her grandfather. Later, Mr. Gyeongtae receives a call from the hospital he took Mr. Jaeho to yesterday, informing him that the old man has missed his appointment with the neurologist. So he goes to Mr. Jaeho's house to check on him, and the old man is fine, but he didn't want to go to the doctor. Then, Mr. Giante tells him that he must do it because what happened wasn't a one-time thing, but that he once called him thinking he was his son, and that shocks the old man. He says he'll ask Mr. G to take care of everything and look after Yoon. Mr. Giante can't believe Jiho is so naive and tells him that according to his investigations, Mr. G stole a lot of money from Hoseok's company, Yoon's father. Mr. G was the one who bankrupted the company and then lied saying it was all Hoseok's fault. At the school, Yoon waits for Seok, and Jai approaches her and asks why she looks so worried. She tells her that her grandfather is acting strangely, and Jihye tells her that at least she's not alone now and has someone by her side. At that moment, Seok arrives, and she goes out to meet him. Then, he asks her about Mr. G, and she says he was orphaned at a very young age, and her grandfather took care of him like a son, and her father, Hoseok, loved him like a brother. When her father died, Mr. G took care of all the embezzlement problems he left behind. Suddenly, Seok's father calls his son and tells him that Mr. Jiho already knows the truth and is afraid of what he might do. So the two of them go to the residence and panic because Mr. Jiho isn't there. Fortunately, Moon-soo arrives and says he can track his cell phone. Meanwhile, Mr. Jiho arrives at Mr. G's house and enters by breaking the glass wall with a rock. He can't believe he lives in such a luxurious house when he always told him he lived in a small apartment. Then he enters Mr. G's study and finds the 2 rosaries that Mr. G gave him and his son Hoseok when they were children. When Mr. G arrives, Jiho confronts him and asks why he has both rosaries when the forensics never found Hoseok's. And Mr. G remembers how, on the day of the accident, he tried to remove the security camera from Hoseok's car, and to do so, he had to rip off the rosary beads as well. Enraged, Mr. Jiho accuses Mr. G of killing Hoseok and tries to hit him, but Mr. Ji is too strong and knocks him to the ground, leaving him unconscious. Meanwhile, Seok speeds away, trying to get to Mr. G's house as quickly as possible, while Yoon cries in worry for her grandfather. As Mr. G searches for his passport and gathers the necessary paperwork to flee the country, he remembers the night Hoseok died. After Hoseok had discovered Mr. G's embezzlement, he went to ask Mr. Giante for money, but he refused to lend it because he was once on the verge of bankruptcy, and Mr. Jiho chose not to help him. Blinded by rage, Hoseok called Mr. G while driving, unaware that the 2 cars would collide in seconds. Unfortunately, Hoseok and his wife's car took the brunt, and Mr. Ji escaped unharmed. Knowing that the car's security camera had recorded what happened, Mr. Ji got out of his car to stole it. In his last seconds, Hoseok tried to stop him from taking the camera and the rosary beads. Back in the present, Mr. J is shocked to find Mr. Jiho waiting for him outside, but he's acting strange. He's confused and calls him Hoseok and asks him to stay home tonight. Mr. Ji hugs him sadly because he doesn't recognize him. Suddenly, Seok and Yoon arrive. While Yoon stays with her grandfather, Seok runs after Mr. J. Seeing himself trapped, Mr. G attacks Seok with a metal pole, and Seok defends himself as best he can, but fortunately, the police arrive soon. Later, everyone goes to the hospital, and Yoon lets her grandfather rest before going to Seok's room. He tells her that the police have arrested Mr. G and that his punishment will be severe. Days later, Yoon speaks with Mr. Jiho's neurologist, who tells her that the elderly man doesn't yet have dementia but will need to exercise a lot and change his eating habits. When the neurologist asks if she's the only family Mr. Jiho has, Mr. Giante comes in and says he's like a distant relative to Jiho. Days later, Yoon, Seok, and Moon-soo join Mr. Jiho for an early morning jog, demonstrating how important the elderly man is in their lives. Meanwhile, the semester has come to an end, and with it the end of Moon-soo's training. He has arrived at the school as an apprentice for physical education teacher, so today is his last day, and he says goodbye to his precious students. Then he tells Yoon that he wants to swim again. He always loved the water and now has the courage to get back in the pool. Before leaving, he gives her a big hug. On the other hand, Jae-oh asks Sua out and Jesus sees this. At that moment, Kiseok shows up and decides to confess to her that he likes her, and she says she wouldn't go out with someone who's last in school grades. He then says he'll raise his grades, and she promises to give him a chance if that happens. A month later, Mr. Jiho goes to the prison to visit Mr. Jai. He cries, asking for Mr. Jaeho's forgiveness, and incredibly, the old man forgives him because he says it was him who made the mistake. He shouldn't have accepted him into his family. He should have realized he brought a snake into his family. After that, he goes out and thanks Mr. Jeongtae for bringing him, and Mr. Jeongtae confesses that he always felt guilty because the night Hoseok had the accident, he had gone to ask for money to repair the financial damage Mr. Jae had done, but Mr. Jeongtae kicked him out like a dog. Then Mr. Jaeho assures him it wasn't his fault and hopes their family feud would end with the Jiwon's wedding. The following week, the two families meet for the first time for lunch to discuss the Jiwon's wedding. Mr. Jeongtae wants a huge, majestic, fabulous, and expensive wedding, while Mr. Jaeho says he wants something small and traditional. Then Yoon chimes in, saying she wants a small wedding with few guests, and Sek's mother thinks that's great, and she wants to go with Yoon right away to pick out her wedding dress. Suddenly, Sek's grandmother appears. She is Ms. Suja, the woman that Mr. Jaeho and Sek's grandfather fought over. She arrives belligerently and scolds her son, Mr. Gyeongtae, for being so rude to Yoon and advises the two men to stop interfering in the wedding when it's a miracle the two families are ever going to reconcile. Later, Seok and Yoon can't believe the first family reunion was so arduous, and Yoon suggests they elope, but Seok objects. He waited many years to marry her. He wants a small outdoor wedding. Just imagining the photos makes him emotional. Days later, Seok and Yoon's wedding photo shoot takes place outdoors, but instead of everything going smoothly, he arrives late, and when they try to take the first photos, a huge storm interrupts the photo shoot. That night, Yoon goes out drinking with the other teachers and doesn't notice Sua and Tae leaving the dinner with unbelievable excuses, and Professor Duksu tells her that the two of them are dating. After that, Jae asks to speak with Yoon alone and downs a can of beer in one gulp to give herself courage. She proceeds to tell her that 18 years ago, she deleted the calls and texts Seok sent her from Seoul. Jae felt guilty for years and never wanted to tell her because she thought she would lose her as a friend. Yoon easily forgives her because they were just teenagers back then, and besides, everything worked out with Seok. Later, Yoon returns to the residence and breaks her grandfather's rule about not being in a closed room with Seok before the wedding. After what Jae told her, she is grateful that fate brought them back together. Weeks later, the new semester begins, and Haesoo steps down as class president and proposes Yul as the new president. When classes end, Haesoo goes to find Kiseok and suggests they study in the library. He smiles excitedly because it means she doesn't want him to be at the bottom of the class again. Unfortunately, Yumi and Yul join their study session when he wanted to spend time with her. Elsewhere, Seok suggests an alternative to building golf courses. He wants to build ecological reserves. These won't be as lucrative as the golf courses, but they'll be good for the environment, and Mr. Jeongtae agrees. Meanwhile, Ms. Suja and Mr. Jaeho become friends again. He asks her why she chose Ban-hee over him. She laughs and says that she thought Ban-hee was more handsome. Besides, her late husband was more loving, while Mr. Jaeho only cared about his job. Months later, Mr. Lee tells his boss he has to travel to New Zealand for a month to close new business deals. When Seok tells Yoon, she laments that she'll be spending her Christmas alone. The next day, Yoon talks with Sua and Jihee to make plans to spend Christmas together, but Sua has plans, and Jihee announces she's done looking for a boyfriend. She plans to stay single forever. Suddenly, Miss Kang enters the staff room with the handsome new math teacher and asks Jihee to show him around the school, but she can't take her eyes off him, and vice versa. As the days pass, communication between Yoon and Seok becomes increasingly difficult due to the time difference, which makes Yoon sad. Weeks later, it's almost Christmas, and Yoon's grandfather is having minor blackouts, but he assures her he'll never forget how much he loves her. Alone, Yoon sadly watches as it begins to snow. Driven by something unknown, she follows her heart and goes to the highest part of the town, where she and Seok were supposed to meet 18 years ago but couldn't. When she arrives, he's waiting for her and tells her he saw the weather forecast for South Korea, and when he found out it was going to snow, he took the first plane and then wraps her in a red scarf he'd knitted, healing the last wound Yoon had in her heart. She hugs him, saying how much she misses him, and he tells her he loves her more than anything. They both remember how their story began in kindergarten when he didn't want to marry her and Yoon took took the initiative by telling him she liked him. Then they grew into teenagers, and it was Seok who took the initiative. But this time, as adults, they both took the step they needed to forgive each other and accept that they were always meant to be together. The end.